The morning air at Linden International Airport was sharp and cold, carrying a metallic tang that blended oddly with the aroma of coffee and jet fuel. Commuters rushed past, eyes glued to their screens or to the boards overhead, unaware of the solemn drama about to unfold. In the midst of the chaos, Sergeant Marcus Reed stood still, his posture rigid, his polished black boots gleaming on the sterile floor. He was not here on a routine patrol or ceremonial tour. He was here to fulfill a sacred promise. Marcus had been chosen for the task only hours ago. The telegram arrived at the barracks like a hammer strike. Private First Class Ethan Blake had fallen in combat overseas. The mission details were classified, the circumstances sparse, but the message was clear. Ethan's remains were to be escorted home with full military honors. Marcus had known Ethan since basic training. They were opposites in many ways. Marcus methodical and calculating, Ethan fiery and spontaneous. Yet their bond had grown into an unbreakable brotherhood through fire and sand, through endless nights under foreign stars. The casket lay under a stark white tarp on the tarmac, guarded by airmen who shifted nervously in the early sunlight. Marcus's uniform shone like a beacon, the silver badge of the tomb guard pinned over his heart catching every glint of light. He adjusted his white gloves, feeling the weight of responsibility press down on him. Today, it was not about schedules or convenience. It was about honor, duty, and the promise he had made to his fallen friend. Inside the terminal, civilians moved like a restless tide, some snapping photos, others muttering complaints at the delays. Across the hall, Marcus caught sight of the family, Ethan's mother, Eleanor, 65, her face lined with years of worry and pride, holding her granddaughter, Lily, who could not have been more than 9. The girl's eyes were wide, her small hand clutching Eleanor's as though afraid the world might take him away again. Eleanor's throat tightened, her gaze fixed on the transport that would soon bring her son home. She had lost a husband in Vietnam, and now, her only son. Today, she would see him one last time. The airport operations manager, Richard Hale, paced in his office above the arrivals hall. A man obsessed with efficiency, he was calculating the impact of the military procession on 19 simultaneous departures. "Why wasn't I informed?" he muttered. "We have service corridors, it should go through there." His assistant, Claire, reminded him that the airport director had approved the main concourse route. Hale clenched his jaw. Efficiency, he believed, was the backbone of civilization. Any disruption, no matter how noble, was unacceptable. Marcus began the procession, each step measured, a silent metronome of respect. The terminal felt alien under his disciplined rhythm, the hum of rolling suitcases and announcements fading into insignificance. He held the photograph of him and Ethan under a desert moon, worn from years of handling, a talisman against the grief that threatened to consume him. The thought of the night before Ethan's final mission returned vividly. Laughter subdued, by the shadow of mortality, a whispered promise beneath a star-studded sky. "Bring me home proper," Ethan had said. Marcus had nodded, sealing a vow that transcended duty. The airport floor seemed to pause, commuters sensing something sacred. An elderly veteran saluted quietly from a distance. A mother hushed her, "Child," and for a fleeting moment, time slowed. Marcus's resolve hardened. No shortcuts, no compromises. This was not about convenience. This was about honor, sacrifice, and a brotherhood forged in fire. The echo of Marcus's boots faded into the cavernous terminal, yet the weight of history pressed down on him as heavily as the flag-draped casket he led. Memories of missions, past surfaced unbidden. The desert winds whipping sand into every crevice, the acrid smoke of burning vehicles, and the laughter of Ethan amidst danger, a lifeline in a world defined by chaos. Those memories carried a shadow now, one that Marcus felt in the pit of his stomach as he glanced at the gathered crowd. Ethan's mother, Eleanor, had taught him lessons long before the battlefield had forged their friendship. She had sent care, packages filled with handwritten letters and cookies, her love crossing oceans to reach a young soldier's heart. Lily, the bright-eyed granddaughter, clutched a drawing Ethan had sent her months earlier. Crude crayons forming the outline of a helicopter in flight, a tribute to the dreams he once shared with the boy he adored. Marcus's hand brushed the drawing gently in his breast pocket, grounding him. Inside the terminal, the hum of everyday life pressed against solemnity. Commuters muttered under their breath, annoyed by delays, yet a subtle shift had begun. Veterans, recognizing the protocol and dignity of the tomb guard, stood straighter. Children tilted their heads in curiosity, sensing the gravity of the moment, though they could not fully comprehend it. Marcus's eyes swept the terminal. He saw a man in a marine cap, posture rigid, hands trembling as he lowered his smartphone. Respect rippled outward like concentric waves, slowly washing over the indifferent crowd. Richard Hale, the operations manager, watched from above, frustration coiling in his chest like a snake. His meticulously calculated schedules threatened to unravel in the wake of tradition. He muttered about efficiency and disruptions, but the words felt hollow, even as they left his lips. Hale's assistant, Claire, tried to intercede, quietly, reminding him of the director's prior approval. He shook his head, unwilling to concede. Efficiency was a language he understood. Reverence was a dialect foreign and uncomfortable. Marcus felt the weight of eyes upon him, yet he moved with fluid precision. Every step was a metronome of duty, a silent homage to a fallen brother. He recalled the night before Ethan's final mission. The stars stretched infinitely above, desert cold pressing against their skin. Ethan had laughed softly, uncharacteristically subdued. "Bring me home proper," he whispered. The words were etched into Marcus's mind, a lodestar in the storm of emotion and responsibility. As the procession reached the midpoint of the concourse, Marcus noticed subtle gestures from the crowd. A flight attendant paused, hand to chest. A businessman closed his laptop mid-email. A mother pulled her child closer, whispering softly. The terminal itself seemed to hold its breath, the usual din muted by the invisible weight of collective reverence. Marcus's gaze briefly met Eleanor's. She nodded once, the gesture heavy with gratitude and grief intertwined. Through the glass walls, sunlight fractured into shards of gold across polished floors, casting the flag-draped casket in dramatic relief. The gleaming stripes rippled in the breeze of the terminal's air conditioning vents, each fold a reminder of the promise Marcus had made and of the life that had been taken too soon. He adjusted his uniform once more, fingertips brushing the silver badge pinned over his heart, reaffirming the vow that had carried him across continents and into danger. The whispers of duty and sacrifice echoed in Marcus's mind as he led the way, each footfall precise, measured, a rhythm of honor. Every passenger who paused became part of the unspoken chorus, a testament that recognition and respect need not be loud to resonate. For Marcus, this was the culmination of years of brotherhood and shared burdens, the final act of service, not on a battlefield, but in the sacred space of remembrance. The hum of fluorescent lights overhead did little to soothe the tension building within Linden International Airport. Sergeant Marcus Reed's boots echoed sharply on the polished tiles as he guided the flag-draped casket through the main concourse. Travelers' chatter and the rolling of luggage slowed, curiosity giving way to the solemnity that seemed to descend like a tangible fog. But the calm was deceptive. In the control office above, Richard Hale, the airport operations manager, clenched his jaw, staring at the precise movements below. Every second of this procession threatened his meticulously curated schedules. He waved his assistant Claire over, pointing at the highlighted path through service corridors. "This is faster," he insisted. "Less disruption. That's the protocol." Claire hesitated, glancing at the growing crowd, sensing the weight of the moment. Hale's obsession with efficiency blinded him to the ceremony unfolding below. Marcus didn't look up. Every step was deliberate, a silent testament to a brotherhood forged in blood and sand. He remembered the night Ethan had shared his fears in the dim light of their outpost. "If I don't make it, promise me. You'll bring me home right," Ethan had whispered, eyes shadowed by premonition. Marcus had nodded, sealing a vow heavier than any orders pinned to a uniform. Now that promise was manifest in every echoing footstep, every sharp crease of his gloves. The first confrontation occurred as Hale descended to the terminal floor, his hands gesturing toward the casket. "Sergeant," he said, voice firm, "you cannot proceed this way. Redirect through the service corridors. It's efficient. It avoids delays for thousands of passengers." Marcus's eyes met his, steady and unyielding. "This is private. First Class Ethan Blake, United States Army," he replied, voice calm but resolute. "He will be escorted with full honors through the main terminal." Hale's frustration erupted into indignation. "I am responsible for this terminal. Protocols exist for a reason. You will follow them." His hand reached toward the flag-draped casket in a gesture Marcus recognized immediately as a violation, a symbolic trespass against every soldier's sacrifice. In one fluid movement, Marcus's hand gripped Hale's wrist. "Do not touch the flag," he said softly, yet the words reverberated through the hushed terminal. Gasps echoed from the crowd. A group of veterans had moved closer, recognizing the significance of Marcus's restraint, of the centuries-old protocols defending the sanctity of the flag. Travelers froze, some whispering in awe, others wiping tears. Hale recoiled, shaking off the grip. "Security! Remove him!" he barked, though his command seemed small against the collective weight of respect emanating from the passengers and veterans alike. The terminal felt transformed. Time slowed, each heartbeat synchronized with the measured steps of Marcus and the honor guard. Mothers held children tighter, businessmen closed laptops, and teenagers slipped phones into pockets. Eleanor's eyes glistened, her grip on Lily tightening as she witnessed the stand for honor, the defense of a promise made beneath desert stars. Marcus's gaze swept across the concourse, unwavering. Every detail mattered. The shine of his boots, the crease in his uniform, the precision of his steps, the sharp line of his jaw, all part of the silent declaration that duty transcends convenience. Hale's protest grew faint under the magnitude of the moment. He was alone in his obsession with schedules, while the terminal had become a cathedral of respect. Finally, the airport director, Captain Sandra Whitmore, a retired Army officer, in civilian clothes, arrived. Her presence alone shifted the balance. Hale opened his mouth to protest, but she raised a hand, silent authority in every gesture. "Sergeant Reed," she said, voice calm but firm, "the procession will continue through the main terminal as approved." Marcus inclined his head slightly, acknowledging her, while the tension in the air eased, giving way to solemn reverence. The procession resumed, each step resonating like a drumbeat across the terminal. Travelers formed a silent corridor of respect, their movements deliberate, their gaze lowered. The flag, pristine and vibrant, caught the sunlight, a beacon guiding the fallen home. Marcus felt the burden of his promise lift slightly, tempered by pride in the honor preserved, and in the recognition that some duties are timeless, impervious to the trivialities of schedules and metrics. The terminal seemed to hold its breath. Marcus Reed led the procession with unwavering precision, the flag-draped casket a stark symbol of sacrifice amid the ordinary bustle of passengers. Every step reverberated through the polished floors, echoing against glass walls and steel beams, a heartbeat of solemnity in a world that had momentarily forgotten its rhythm. The crowd had shifted, transforming the concourse into a corridor of honor. Parents lifted children to see the procession. Some clutched hands over hearts, others saluted. Silently, commuters who had earlier muttered complaints now bowed heads or whispered prayers. The shift was subtle but profound. Marcus noticed George Miller, an elderly veteran standing taller than before, his Marine cap held reverently. Nearby, a teenager slipped her phone into her pocket, eyes wide with understanding, realizing that some moments demanded presence over documentation. Eleanor clutched Lily's hand tightly, guiding her through the throng. "He loved baseball," she whispered, voice trembling. "Dreamed of flying planes. He died saving his squad." Lily's small fingers pressed against the folded edge of a crayon drawing she had once mailed to Ethan, now kept in her pocket. Marcus's gaze briefly met Eleanor's, and in that silent exchange, years of grief, pride, and gratitude were communicated without words. The procession continued, and Marcus remembered the nights in Afghanistan when danger was constant and the air hung heavy with the acrid smell of smoke and gunpowder. Ethan's laughter had been a lifeline, a defiance against fear. Those memories fueled Marcus's resolve. Every measured step reinforced the promise made beneath starlit skies, a vow that death could not erase. Above the terminal, Hale's frustration had not fully dissipated, but the weight of collective respect was undeniable. The director, Captain Sandra Whitmore, walked alongside the procession at a measured pace, her civilian attire belying a military bearing that commanded attention. Hale's protests fell silent under her composed gaze. Marcus maintained his rhythm, knowing that this moment transcended schedules, delays, and metrics. Here, honor was not negotiable. Sunlight poured through the terminal's windows, illuminating the stripes of the flag draped over the casket. Each fold seemed to ripple with history and sacrifice. Travelers instinctively moved aside, creating a clear path. Every footstep of the honor guard, every glance from the onlookers, added to a tapestry of collective reverence. Marcus felt a profound weight in his chest, a blend of sorrow and fulfillment. This was the culmination of a promise, a demonstration of values that refused to be compromised. The terminal, transformed from a space of transit to a sanctuary of remembrance, echoed with silent recognition. Travelers understood instinctively that they were witnessing something sacred. Marcus led the way with unwavering focus, his uniform crisp, white gloves immaculate, and the silver badge of the tomb guard gleaming as though it carried the light of every soldier honored within its history. Eleanor's eyes welled with tears, Lily's small hand pressed against her mother's, and Marcus felt the unspoken affirmation of duty fulfilled. Each step carried him closer to the tarmac, where the black hearse waited under the afternoon sun. The procession, though brief in duration, would remain eternal in memory. A testament that some promises, some acts of respect, are not measured in hours or minutes, but in the integrity and courage of those who uphold them. The terminal doors opened onto the tarmac, the afternoon sun casting a harsh yet reverent light on the scene awaiting Sergeant Marcus Reed. The black hearse gleamed, its polished surface reflecting the colors of the flag-draped casket and the assembled honor guard. The roar of jet engines and the distant chatter of ground crew faded into a muted backdrop, the world narrowing to the solemn moment of final tribute. Eleanor held Lily close, her grip a silent transmission of strength and grief. Marcus adjusted the folds of the flag carefully, ensuring every stripe and star was pristine. Each movement was deliberate, a final choreography of respect. The passengers who had followed the procession into the terminal had long since dispersed, but the memory of their reverent pause lingered, a testament to the profound impact of the ceremony they had witnessed. Marcus's mind wandered back to the moments that had defined Ethan Blake's life. The boy who had laughed under desert stars, who had scribbled dreams on crumpled paper, who had shielded Marcus in an ambush that could have ended the sergeant's life. Those memories were not just recollections. They were anchors, grounding Marcus in the duty he now performed. He could feel the invisible threads of promise stretching back across miles and years, connecting him to every decision, every heartbeat, every shared laugh and whispered fear. The honor guard formed a protective semicircle around the casket, their movements precise and synchronized, each step echoing the ancient rhythm of military tradition. Marcus's eyes scanned the perimeter, noting the subtle gestures of respect from the ground crew. Caps removed, hands over hearts, quiet nods. Even the pilots in the distant hangars paused, a fleeting acknowledgement of the weight carried in, the black vehicle at the center of the tarmac. Eleanor's voice broke the silence barely above a whisper. "He would have wanted this," she said, referring to her son. Lily pressed the crayon drawing to her chest, her small hand trembling. Marcus stepped closer, allowing a moment for the family to connect with the memory of Ethan. The life cut short, the promise fulfilled. The sunlight glinted off his badge as he adjusted his stance, the physical manifestation of honor standing as a shield against grief. Marcus remembered the final briefing before Ethan's last mission, the tension thick in the air. Ethan had grinned, masking the fear he could never show, and whispered, "Bring me home right, Reed." Those words resonated through Marcus's chest, guiding every precise step, every careful adjustment of the flag. Duty was not a mere obligation, it was a covenant, etched into the very bones of those who had shared danger and trust. The vehicle awaited, its engine idling softly, yet every vibration seemed to harmonize with the silent cadence of the escort. Marcus lifted the casket slightly, signaling the honor guard to move as one toward the hearse. Ground crew stepped back, eyes lowered, recognizing the sanctity of the moment. The terminal behind them faded into memory. The present was all that mattered, the safe passage of a soldier back to the earth that would honor him forever. As the casket neared the rear of the hearse, Marcus felt the culmination of every promise, every step taken through chaos and indifference, come to its rightful conclusion. He lowered the casket gently onto the polished platform of the vehicle, the flag rippling in the afternoon breeze. Eleanor's hand rested on Lily's shoulder, and Marcus handed over the worn photograph of Ethan smiling under desert stars. The moment was brief, yet timeless, a bridge between loss and tribute, grief and honor. The terminal doors opened onto the tarmac, the afternoon sun casting a harsh yet reverent light on the scene awaiting Sergeant Marcus Reed. The black hearse gleamed, its polished surface reflecting the colors of the flag-draped casket and the assembled honor guard. The roar of jet engines and the distant chatter of ground crew faded into a muted backdrop, the world narrowing to the solemn moment of final tribute. Eleanor held Lily close, her grip a silent transmission of strength and grief. Marcus adjusted, the folds of the flag carefully, ensuring every stripe and star was pristine. Each movement was deliberate, a final choreography of respect. The passengers who had followed the procession into the terminal had long since dispersed, but the memory of their reverent pause lingered, a testament to the profound impact of the ceremony they had witnessed. Marcus's mind wandered back to the moments that had defined Ethan Blake's life, the boy who had laughed under desert stars, who had scribbled dreams on crumpled paper, who had shielded Marcus in an ambush that could have ended the sergeant's life. Those memories were not just recollections, they were anchors, grounding Marcus in the duty he now performed. He could feel the invisible threads of promise stretching back across miles and years, connecting him to every decision, every heartbeat, every shared laugh and whispered fear. The honor guard formed a protective semicircle around the casket, their movements precise and synchronized, each step echoing the ancient rhythm of military tradition. Marcus's eyes scanned the perimeter, noting the subtle gestures of respect from the ground crew. Caps removed, hands over hearts, quiet nods. Even the pilots in the distant hangars paused, a fleeting acknowledgement of the weight carried in. The black vehicle at the center of the tarmac. Eleanor's voice broke the silence, barely above a whisper. "He would have wanted this," she said, referring to her son. Lily pressed the crayon drawing to her chest, her small hand trembling. Marcus stepped closer, allowing a moment for the family to connect with the memory of Ethan. The life cut short, the promise fulfilled. The sunlight glinted off his badge as he adjusted his stance, the physical manifestation of honor standing as a shield against grief. Marcus remembered the final briefing before Ethan's last mission, the tension thick in the air. Ethan had grinned, masking the fear he could never show, and whispered, "Bring me home right, Reed." Those words resonated through Marcus's chest, guiding every precise step, every careful adjustment of the flag. Duty was not a mere obligation. It was a covenant, etched into the very bones of those who had shared danger and trust. The vehicle awaited, its engine idling softly, yet every vibration seemed to harmonize with the silent cadence of the escort. Marcus lifted the casket slightly, signaling the honor guard to move as one toward the hearse. Ground crew stepped back, eyes lowered, recognizing the sanctity of the moment. The terminal behind them faded into memory. The present was all that mattered, the safe passage of a soldier back to the earth that would honor him forever. So, the casket neared the rear of the hearse. Marcus felt the culmination of every promise, every step taken through chaos and indifference, come to its rightful conclusion. He lowered the casket gently onto the polished platform of the vehicle, the flag rippling in the afternoon breeze. Eleanor's hand rested on Lily's shoulder, and Marcus handed over the worn photograph of Ethan smiling under desert stars. The moment was brief, yet timeless, a bridge between loss and tribute, grief and honor. Chapter 6. The Quiet Reflection. The black hearse pulled away from the tarmac, tires whispering over the asphalt, leaving behind a trail of sunlight bouncing off. The polished terminal windows. Sergeant Marcus Reed walked beside the vehicle, eyes fixed ahead yet tracing the familiar contours of the casket he had carried. Every fiber of his being ached with the weight of a promise kept, of a life returned to its rightful resting place. The city hummed with indifference beyond the airport, unaware of the profound moments that had unfolded just minutes before. For Marcus, the world had shrunk to the gentle sway of the casket in the vehicle, the soft grip of Eleanor's hand as she steadied her granddaughter, and the echo of the footsteps that had carried honor through the terminal. Memories of Ethan Blake played behind his eyes. The youthful grin under desert skies, the reckless courage in the face of ambush, the whispered words exchanged beneath a night so black it swallowed all else. They stopped briefly at a small observation area overlooking the runway. The family took a moment, Lily pressing her drawing against the glass railing, Eleanor standing stoic yet trembling inside. Marcus adjusted his uniform, white gloves crisp, polished boots grounded firmly. He traced the folds of the flag with his eyes, as if memorizing every crease, every stitch, every stripe and star that represented years of dedication, sacrifice, and unfulfilled dreams. In the quiet of this pause, Marcus allowed himself to reflect. Duty had never been convenient, never easy. Ethan had chosen paths that others feared to tread. Marcus had chosen to stand firm, guided by the memory of shared laughter and the echo of a promise made beneath the stars. These reflections were not burdens. They were honor inscribed upon the soul, a constant reminder of the invisible bonds, forged in shared adversity. Eleanor's voice broke the stillness. "He would have wanted it this way," she whispered to Marcus, eyes shining with unshed tears. Lily's small fingers clutched at her grandmother's sleeve, her gaze fixed on the casket swaying gently in the moving vehicle. Marcus felt a swell of emotion but remained composed, a pillar of stability against the tide of grief and memory. As the convoy moved toward Arlington National Cemetery, Marcus's mind wandered to the ceremonies that awaited. The honor guard would perform every gesture with precision, every step measured, every salute a testament to the dedication of one young soldier whose life had been cut short. Marcus's own role, though physically over, would remain etched in memory, a silent witness to the fulfillment of a promise that transcended orders, schedules, and bureaucracy. Time seemed to stretch, the cityscape blurring into insignificance. The casket in the hearse was more than wood and cloth. It was a vessel of legacy, a physical manifestation of courage, of friendship, of a bond unbroken by death. Marcus adjusted the photograph in his pocket. Ethan smiling under desert stars, arms thrown wide in youthful defiance of fear. He carried that image as both armor and compass, a guide through the remainder of his duty. Finally, they approached the cemetery gates, wrought iron glinting in the afternoon sun. Ground crews and ceremonial units awaited, their presence a quiet acknowledgement of the gravity of the moment. Marcus took a deep breath, shoulders squared, eyes fixed ahead. Every step taken from the terminal to the tarmac, every confrontation, every silent corridor of honor had led to this threshold. He was not just escorting a fallen soldier. He was safeguarding memory, defending dignity, and fulfilling a vow that no passage of time could diminish. Chapter 7. Gates of Remembrance. The gates of Arlington National Cemetery loomed ahead, wrought, iron painted black, etched with quiet dignity. Sergeant Marcus Reed felt the culmination of every mile walked, every step measured, every moment of confrontation and reflection coalesce into this singular approach. The black hearse glided forward, the flag-draped casket a steadfast emblem of courage and loss. Sunlight danced across the polished surface, highlighting each crease of the carefully folded stars and stripes. Eleanor held Lily tightly, her hands steady though her chest rose and fell with grief and pride. Marcus walked alongside them, white, gloves immaculate, uniform sharp, the silver badge glinting as though catching fragments of the countless sacrifices it represented. The wind carried the faint echo of distant bugle calls, an unseen melody accompanying the solemn procession. Every step into the cemetery felt like a journey back through time. The young soldiers, the veterans, the families who had walked similar paths, all converging in the silent recognition of duty fulfilled. Marcus's mind replayed the final words shared under desert skies, the laughter and courage that Ethan Blake had embodied, the promise to bring him home with honor. The cemetery grounds were immaculate, paths lined with perfectly trimmed hedges, and rows upon rows of white headstones stretching toward the horizon. Ground crew and ceremonial units awaited, their movements precise, every gesture choreographed to honor the fallen. Marcus led the way with deliberate steps, eyes unwavering, the weight of responsibility pressing as heavily as the casket he had escorted. Eleanor and Lily approached the edge of the ceremonial path, hands intertwined. Lily's small fingers traced the edge of the crayon drawing she had brought, pressed against her chest like a talisman. Marcus glanced down at her, feeling a surge of emotion tempered by the discipline that had carried him through every challenge. Thus far, he had promised Ethan Blake that he would see this moment through. Now, the moment was here. The procession halted at the gravesite, a carefully chosen spot shaded by a cluster of oak trees. The tomb guard adjusted the casket, ensuring every fold of the flag was perfect, every corner straightened, every stripe aligned. The honor guard formed a protective semicircle, rifles held at port arms, eyes forward, the rhythm of their breathing, synchronized as if marking the passage of life and memory. Marcus knelt slightly to present the worn photograph of Ethan to Eleanor and Lily, the desert stars captured in a smile that could never fade. Eleanor's eyes shimmered with tears, lips quivering, yet her hands accepted the image as both a relic and a symbol. Marcus rose, glancing at the headstones around them, feeling a quiet kinship with every soldier commemorated here, a shared duty to honor, to remember, and to stand firm when the world might forget. As the first ceremonial notes of taps floated, through the air, the wind seemed to still, carrying the resonance of sacrifice. Marcus's posture remained rigid, yet solemn, the embodiment of respect and discipline, while Eleanor and Lily placed a small flower atop the casket. The moment, though fleeting, was eternal, a bridge connecting past and present, grief and reverence, life and memory. Chapter 8. Legacy of Honor. The sun began its slow descent over Arlington, casting elongated shadows across the perfectly aligned rows of headstones. Sergeant Marcus Reed stood at attention, the wind tugging slightly at the folds of his uniform, yet his posture remained unyielding, a silent testament to discipline, respect, and the fulfillment of a solemn promise. The black hearse had been moved into position, the flag-draped casket now resting at its final location. Eleanor and Lily approached with measured steps, each footfall echoing softly across the manicured grass. Marcus handed the photograph of Ethan to Eleanor once more, a gentle gesture connecting memory and presence. She accepted it, holding it close to her heart, while Lily's tiny fingers brushed the petals of a single white daisy she had pressed against the flag. The flower seemed almost symbolic, a delicate life brought to honor a greater one. The honor guard took their positions, rifles raised in silent respect, while the cemetery itself seemed to breathe, acknowledging the gravity of the moment. Marcus's eyes scanned the horizon, taking in every detail, the distant monument of the unknown soldier, the gentle sway of the trees, the disciplined lines of graves stretching as far as sight could reach. Each element was a reminder of the countless sacrifices that had brought freedom, safety, and hope to those who remained. Eleanor knelt beside the casket, her voice barely above a whisper. "He would be proud," she said, tears catching the call, light as they fell. Lily pressed her forehead to the casket, whispering softly, "You're my hero, Ethan." Marcus felt a lump rise in his throat, but remained composed, the years of training and duty providing the fortitude to carry the weight of collective grief. Marcus remembered the first time he had met Ethan Blake, two young soldiers thrown together. In the crucible of training, the laughter, the whispered promises, the sense of brotherhood forged through adversity. Those memories were vivid and raw, and now they coalesced into a single enduring truth. Promises made in the face of danger are sacred, transcending orders, protocols, and even time itself. The ceremonial unit began the final salute, rifles raised, movements precise and unwavering. Marcus mirrored the gesture, his gaze fixed on the flag-draped casket. In that moment, all noise, all distraction, all worldly concern vanished. There was only honor, sacrifice, memory, and the fulfillment of a promise. Eleanor and Lily stood, quietly, absorbing the solemnity, their presence a bridge between past, present, and the enduring legacy of a young soldier who had given all. As taps rang out across the cemetery, the wind carried the hauntingly beautiful notes, mingling with the soft rustle of leaves and distant sounds of a world moving forward. Marcus's gaze softened as he looked at the photograph once more, then gently pressed it into Eleanor's hand. It was a silent acknowledgement that duty had been fulfilled, that honor had been preserved, and that memory would endure. The moment stretched into eternity. Marcus finally lowered his rifle, stepping back to allow Eleanor and Lily a private connection with Ethan. The sun dipped below the horizon, bathing the cemetery in a warm, amber glow. Marcus stood sentinel until the final moments passed, a quiet guardian of legacy and a living testament to the power of a promise kept. As the family and honor guard slowly departed, Marcus remained for a few steps longer, eyes lingering on the flag-draped casket. Then, with a slow and deliberate turn, he resumed his path along the cemetery grounds, the rhythm of his steps a silent echo of all who had stood watch before him, and all who would continue to honor the fallen in the days and years to come.